Blessings BookTube. Welcome to Tag Tuesday. All right, got another tag here from Marianadrea. Thank you, Marianadrea, for tagging me. And this was originally designed by Dwayne at the Reading Room, 1972. Um, Looks like Marianadrea was tagged by Book Chat with Pat and the Library Mouse Dineh. So this has 10 prompts, and we're continuing in our summer theme. I'll try not to be too repetitive. I think there's only one question where I repeat anything that I usually use. For example, the first one is barbecue time. Pick a favorite author. You're inviting them to the barbecue to announce their newest work. And what do you hope they're announcing? So for this, my favorite authors tend to be dead, so they're not announcing very much. So I was thinking of a living author that I love a lot, and Sherman Alexie is one. He wrote Lone Ranger and Tonto Fistfight in Heavy, Reservation Blues, amazing poetry. I don't know how many collections. The film Smoke Signals, also amazing. Makes you laugh, makes me cry. And I know a lot of you like to cry. I don't like to cry, but it makes me laugh enough, so it's okay. No, it's good. It's an amazing movie. You got to see it. First, I think all native, produced, written, directed movie in the States at least, maybe Canada too. I don't know. Okay, so what I want Sherman Alexie to announce is his new uh, compendium of Indian humor. For some reason, people have the idea of Indians, by which I mean Amerindians, Native Americans, in the States at least, this sort of Cody Iron Eyes with the single tear, right, from the no littering campaign. That this idea of the stoic Indian, very stoic. But Indians, and by the way, they always say Indian humor. I've never heard anyone say Native American humor, so I stick with Indian, as most of my friends use that. So Indians always talk about Indian humor, and you can see it on their T-shirts sometimes. You'll see if you go to an Indian fair, you see FBI, fry bread inspector, or you'll see it'll be a picture of like Geronimo or somebody. It'll be like Homeland Security since I don't know what year. Okay, so that'll be my barbecue announcement. Second prompt is road trip. Pick a real world setting from a recent, not so recent read. Where would that road trip take you? I'm going to go to Ethiopia. And the reason is I'm currently reading a guidebook, very old guidebook of Ethiopia that I picked up at the artist's house. I love reading old guidebooks. It's how I got through the pandemic, not being able to travel. And yeah, reading this one about Ethiopia, I'm learning a ton. So we'll be taking the historic trail from Addis Ababa up north to Axum. They have the rock-hewn churches. They have the Ark of the Covenant. A lot of great stuff. Coffee originated there, right? So that'll be my trip to Ethiopia. Three is camping. Do you rough it? Tent or sleeping bag? Require amenities? Will I read more than usual? Well, my roughing it days unfortunately are over the days that I could sleep in on a rock. However, I still end up stretching myself in, um, sleeping in airports and youth hostels of various levels. But yeah, I can and do and love to hammock camp. There's something called a hanesi, which is a hammock, but it has a tarp over it, so you can be out of the rain. And so you just string it between any two trees. Very easy. Takes 5 seconds to set up camp. And then you got a thing to sit in, sleep in, hang out in the breeze. Um, Keeps the bugs away. It's got a mesh. Um, yeah, those are great. I don't have one anymore. I used to have one. There are some things I do regret. I wish I still had. That would be handy to have. But as I say, I'm getting old for that sort of stuff. And who am I reading in when I'm camping? Well, let's see. Of course, if you have to hump it, as I always say, you're probably going to be reading paper thin pages like in the Bible. So which works have that? But Walk in the Woods, of course, Bill Bryson's failed attempt to walk the Appalachian Trail, which I'm repeating myself here. I also tried and told that story and failed like him. I don't remember which video it was that I told that story. And my favorite nature writers I've mentioned before, Peter Matthiessen, Aldo Leopold, any of them would be great to read in the camp. 4 is festival. I'm attending a booktube festival dressed as one of my favorite literary characters. Who do I go dressed up as and why? I actually went to a book fair, the Texas Book Fair in San Antonio, where I think Marianadrea might have been tagging me from years ago. That was a lot of fun. For dressing up, actually, this is a true life story as well. Wasn't a literary event, although we did dress up. We also dressed up as Sneetches with stars on ours for our Dr. Seuss themed camp for Transform Us, which was a local burn, like Burning Man. That was a lot of fun. We had readings from the Gospel of Seuss. We served green eggs and ham and all that good stuff. But anyway, my favorite costume that I ever did, I did with my wife at the time. It was just for Halloween. We did, if you know this play by Tom Stoppard, Guildenstern and Rozenkrantz and Guildenstern. Always get those combobbled. Rozenkrantz and Guildenstern are dead, is the play. So we went as Rozenkrantz and Guildenstern undead. So with our frilly, Elizabethan collars, or I can't remember if we were dressed in Scandinavian black, and of course with undead makeup and that kind of stuff. That was fun. Okay, Slice Life 5. What is something others may consider simple or mundane, but is something you can't see a summer without? They're not super summery per se. Although, however, you have more leisure in summer to enjoy them. But there was something that was a part of life that is going the way of the dodo, that is simple, but I think essential. And I was reminded of it by a video I saw, the history, what's her channel called? The History Reader? The History Person? Anyway, she was talking about the end of the, not the Book of the Month Club, but the history one, the history equivalent. And she was lamenting its end and everything that means, what it used to mean to wait for something and, just have things curated for you and bounded within a certain theme or a certain style. So what I loved was my magazines. I always, to my mom's credit also, she always was subscribed to lots of magazines, Interview, Rolling Stone, Nat Geo, of course, Archaeology, I think a BBC history one. Can't remember them all, but so I grew up as a magazine reader. Sports Illustrated, of course, was among them, but fantasy and science fiction, Dragon magazine. And then as I got older, I found lots of amazing ones. Like Yes, the Journal of Positive News. That was a great one. Mental Floss is great. They used to take the all the interesting research that people were doing in various academic fields, sort of dumb them down for people. That was a really great variety of things in there. You also had the Utney Reader, which would take the best articles from various smart magazines, and so you'd get a selection from different magazines, such as The Sun. I always liked their editorial slant, and others like that. So, and one of my favorites was always Parabola magazine. Maybe I'll share an article that I wrote, tried to write for them. So that is a slice of life that I miss. And I'm sure most of these exist in online form, and some of them still in print, but not in Thailand. But it's not the same online somehow, or for me. Maybe for kids who grew up reading online, might be. Although I don't hear them. I don't hear the kids talking about reading magazines, right? So Okay, scary story. Which author would you invite to go camping with you, knowing you would want to hear the scariest story that they can tell around the campfire? Well, I hate being scared. I love campfires, however. So I'm going to invite Isaac Bassinger Singer. There were many storytellers that came to mind, but I don't know why he just rose immediately to the top. I think because of Gimple, one of his characters, Gimple the Fool. Those stories are just hilarious. Um, every time he comes home and his wife has a new man in bed and she convinces him that he had another son and this is his son. Oh, heavens, poor Gimple. And yeah, so those would be fun stories to hear around the campfire. 7. First love, summer crush. So romantic interest that leads to, I couldn't quite understand this one. They lead to either a bittersweet ending or a lasting impact. And I think I'm meant to express a preference for one of those. Well, definitely not bittersweet. The sweet sounds nice. I lasting impact, if it's a good impact, obviously would be my choice. So I was thinking of beautiful love stories. Um, I was thinking of another roadside attraction. There's this really quirky, the girl, the woman in the couple triad. Um, something about her that's really quirky and fun, and I don't know why, but I just really like quirky. I fall for quirky gals. There are probably a ton of others, but that was the one that jumped to my mind. And it wasn't bittersweet exactly, but it wasn't, it wasn't live happily ever after either. It was very real, very free love, I guess. I don't know. And I don't know about the lasting. I know it had a lasting impact on the sort of odd man out. He loved her, and he got little in return. Um, but also, that book I had a lasting impact on me. So there you go. That's what I came up with. Um, First love. Where were we? 8. Nostalgia. What book or books instill in you an overwhelming sense of summer nostalgia? They don't have to take place during summer. Um, yes, so these are not so much set in summer, although seasons play a huge role. Um, but there was a summer that I did a folklore study. I was lucky enough to be doing my master's at UNM, where most of about half of our coursework was in cultures of the Southwest, anthropology, history of Native peoples there, and Latino history or Hispanic, more properly, history in New Mexico, as well as Anglo history, of course, Jewish history, all of it. Um, and so I was able to talk. Of course, I had my summer free as a teacher, but I needed to just grab a few credits. But I wanted to travel, so I was already intending to go to Mexico. And I was able to talk one of my professors into working with me to allow me to do this folklore study down in the Chiapas area, or the Lacandon rainforest area near and around San Cristobal Las Casas, Bonampak ruins, Palenque ruins, that area of southern highland Mayas. So not the Popol Vuh, not the Maya of, like Guatemala, whose story you might know from the Popol Vuh. Um, I also was looking at the Dineh Bahane, which was the history of the Dineh, the Navajo land. Um, But those were sort of, general narratives of the overall groups. But I was looking at specific, as you may know, clans are very important to Navajo culture. My long-term girlfriend at that time, Connie, she was Born for Water clan. Um, and clans determine who you can marry and lots of other things. And then the Maya, as you may know, are divided between many language groups. So just in the area where I was, there was Tzotzil, Tzetzal, um, a couple other Mayan languages as well. So getting more specific because I went to a Athabascan language conference at UNM, and they happened to have a presentation by a geneticist. Now, this was brand new, right off the press genetic stuff. This is back in '90s, and they were looking at this link between right because the drift south, right, for the prevailing winds of the Bering Strait idea of native movements into the Americas will be going, predominantly south. However, as we know, they went in various different times and moved around in between. We're talking about a long swath of time, right? So, over time, people move back and forth. Anyway, there was this movement north, possibly, according to some genetics. And I don't know if that was ever substantiated or not. I don't care. It gave me an excuse to try and see if that link existed in the stories. So I had to find a specific, sort of. Um, I was looking mainly at heroes. I ended up looking mainly at hero twins and monster slaying, along with a little bit of the succession of worlds, um, and how that and worked with the cardinal directions and the colors. So a lot that I was looking at, too much for me. I mean that I'm no expert in any of that, but I was looking at that, possibility of this group meeting between the Maya and the certain clan of Navajo who went off and left Navajo lands, and we know that they went south. So did someone come north to meet them? We don't know. I don't know. I found some interesting stuff. I wrote it up. It was great. Okay, I went on way too long about that. What was I trying to tell you about? Oh yes. So my summer reading, I was reading the coyote stories. Did you know that Maya have coyote stories? The hero stories are the hero twins are amazing. I was reading all that summer. That was really really fun. And 9 summer stories. What's a book or books I would recommend where summertime is the primary focus? Um, Actually, I don't know why, but I'm ending on a somber note. Maybe it's the politics of the times. Guns of August talks about the beginnings of the war. Um, I'll have to put the author's name down in the. I want to say Barbara. No, I can't remember. I'll have to put the Trudeck, starts with a T. I want to say. I'll have to put her name down in the show notes because I just can't recall it right off the top of my head. But anyway, this is amazing book looking at not why do wars start, why do wars start. It's a why and a how that are blended together, right? They're happening at the same time. So, so yeah, that's an amazing work. I definitely recommend it for anybody. I'm not into military history at all, but at some point one does need to grapple with it because war is such a huge part, unfortunately, of our history. So I can recommend Guns of August for my summer read, and then I'm going to tag some people. Um, and that's number 10, tag some people. So there you go. I'll put the prompts all down in the show notes as well, so you can do this. Tag if you are inspired, or if I tag you. If you don't want to, also, if I tag you, you feel free to ignore it. I'm 2 tags behind now, but at least I caught up this one from a couple weeks ago. Thanks again hugely to Marianadrea for tagging me. And I invite you with Rumi to sell your cleverness and buy bewilderment.